Hi guys, Warren Speed here. This documentary is all about Featherstone Castle, which is near the small town of Haltwhistle in the county of Northumberland in England. Haltwhistle is located in practically the exact centre of Great Britain, and the settlement at Featherstone Castle dates back to around the 11th century and is allegedly very haunted. The hauntings are centred around the Featherstonehaugh family, who used to live there in the 16th century. The daughter of the family, Abigail, loved a son of one of the local rival families, the Ridleys. But she was forbidden to marry this man by her father and was forced to marry the son of another local family, the Blenkinsopps. On Abigail and the Blenkinsop son's wedding day, they all went out on a hunting trip, but they were all slaughtered by the Ridleys, with most of the Ridleys being killed too. Late in the evening, as Albany, Abigail's father, was sat asleep in his great hall, the wedding party returned, riding through the main gates and making their way to their allotted banquet places. As Albany awoke sometime after midnight, he was greeted by the ghosts of his guests, clearly showing the wounds that had been inflicted upon them and the distress on their faces, before they faded away. The now Grade 1 listed Featherstone Castle is the ancestral home of the Featherstonehaugh family and comprises of a Jacobean manor built around a 13th century peel tower. The family is thought to have been there since the Norman conquest, although the Featherstonehaugh were believed to be Saxons, and they lived in the castle for at least 12 generations until the 17th century. Around the 1670s, Featherstone Castle was either sold, or according to some accounts, seized by the state, and it passed into the hands of Sir William Howard of Naworth, father of Charles Howard, 1st Earl of Carlisle, and during this time the house was significantly remodelled and enlarged. Featherstone Castle was then sold to Sir Matthew Featherstonehaugh of Newcastle upon Tyne in 1711. In 1789 it was sold again and purchased by James Wallace, who was a Member of Parliament, and the castle later passed to his son Baron Thomas Wallace. Again during this time the house was remodelled. In the early 19th century, the castle passed to Wallace's nephew, Colonel James Hope, who then changed his surname to Hope Wallace. Following the start of World War I, Featherstone Castle was leased to an Almouth preparatory school, and during World War II it was used by a school from Rugby. From 1943, a prisoner of war camp was based there, first housing Italian prisoners of war and then housing 7,000 Germans for denazification. In 1961, Featherstone Castle was bought by Colonel John Clark, and it is his son who is the owner today. Featherstone Castle is now used as a self-catering residential centre for young people and students. But anyway, let's meet a couple of the guys who run the ghost tours around the castle. Hi guys.
Hi Warren.
I'm here at Featherstone Castle, which is near Haltwhistle in Northumberland, and come to meet these two guys, Graham and Ken, who run the what's your ghost team called?
It's the Uncovered Paranormal team.
And you're the only team who's ever been allowed in to run investigations.
We were the first team, and we're the only team what's allowed to work in this area. Yeah.
And that was a couple of years ago when you started here.
Be about 2.5 years ago. Then we had the break for the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's whatever we've got. It's working out just great. It really is. It's very, very haunted. Like. Yeah.
Now we'll have a look in the castle after this brief chat. Ken, can you tell us a little bit about the history of it, please?
Yeah, sure. What you're seeing now is the exterior is the 18th century incarnation of the castle, but essentially there's been a settlement on this site for about 1100 years. Started off as a medieval manor house on this site, and then fortified farm buildings, and then in the 12th century they started to build the peel tower, and it's been the seat of the Featherstones or the Featherstonehaugh ever since then, till the last 150 years or so when the lineage died out.
And the Featherstones is kind of the reason why it's haunted, isn't it? With a Romeo and Juliet story.
Yes, it is. It's Abigail. It's everybody knows it's Abigail's wedding. It was the 17th of January, 16th century.
It was the 16th century.
Yeah. She really loved one of the Ridleys.
And that was another kind of rival family.
Yeah, exactly. There's Ridley Hall just down there.
Yeah.
So she was in love with one of the Ridleys, but our father Albany, he said no way you're marrying Ridley. So she got an arranged he got an arranged marriage with Blenkinsop Castle.
Yeah.
So he sort of forced his daughter to marry him. They were away out on a hunting party on the day of the wedding, and then the whole lot got slaughtered, every one of them. And it's a mystery to me and Ken, because even the Ridleys were slaughtered as well. You know, I love her.
Yeah.
He was slaughtered as well. And what you got to remember is the place where you set up now. This is where horses is always trained to come back if
Yeah.
they've lost the riders.
And it looks like the car park
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
the courtyard, isn't it?
And the horses came in, and there was like, I think it wasn't the whole wedding party come back. It was like a couple of horses had come back in, covered in blood. There's one with a person hanging off, but they'd actually been cut to ribbons. So the whole wedding party had been massacred. So it's known as the Abigail's massacre, you know.
And that's basically the cause of all the hauntings,
Yeah.
we think.
We think
Yeah.
we're getting there. Because there's a lot of people seeing disembodied heads. They reckon there was heads cut off. There was slashed to bits. There was blood all over, and that's what intrigued me and Ken to come.
So
to
there's
this
been
castle.
disembodied heads seen in the castle?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because there's been all kinds of things seen,
There's loads. There's a lot of shadows, voices, movement. There's poltergeist activity. There is a one what's got me and Ken intrigued, and the rest of the team. I'll show you when we get further in there. It's this. Can you remember the screaming woman?
Oh, down the corridor in the
And
door.
she's just coming through. But when you look back and you hear people who, when it was a school and stuff like that, they've always mentioned something about this screaming woman, and we actually witnessed that ourselves. And it was just totally amazing. It just blew us away.
What, you saw a woman?
No, it was like
Oh,
the voice.
you heard
You
the
just
screaming.
could hear us screaming, and we knew that we were the only ones in the castle. It's like tonight,
Yeah.
there's only us here, and everybody just looked at the door, and we opened the door, and you just could hear this scream coming. It was as though it was travelling through the corridors, and it just blew us away, didn't it? It was amazing. It's like the heat, you know.
Yeah, well, come on, let's go in and see if we
Yeah,
can hear
let's
it
have a
or
look.
see what we experienced.
The room there, if we go through that one, is classed as the red room.
Right.
And that's got like something definitely happening in there. Have you heard of transfiguration?
Yeah.
There's a lot of transfiguration happens in that room, and we've done it with mirror scrying and stuff like that. And I've done like an experiment, because I know like sometimes I think it's good to be just like one person to be by themselves and mirror scry. So I thought, no, I said we'll do it with 12.
So what's mirror scrying exactly?
Mirror scrying, it's like where they're all given a mirror. There's a little candle in front of them, and all they do is stare at it. And then it's like a spirit comes through your face, and it's like yourself. You could sit there, and all your features would change and everything, so your face turns into the spirit what's there. So we tried it with 12 people, and out of the 12, there was 6 of them just freaked out. And what they were given, the description of themselves, it's stuff what we've seen, spirit-wise. And then there was one where there's a woman, she just, her eyes sunk in, but she ended up getting a beard, and that just totally freaked her out. So every time I come and I do an investigation here with the public, red room, transfiguration room, and I set all the mirrors up, all the candles up, and I'll explain them what's happened. They try it with a mirror. After about 10 minutes, mirror down. Now, sit opposite each other. And it's like seeing me and you looking at each other. And it's so intense, and how the face changes. Some people, it just freaks them out. They can't believe what they're seeing.
Have you caught any of this on film or anything then? Do you ever film anything?
We've done it. It's a little thing with me. Spirits always said, done a deed for self-gains, done a deed for this, that and the other, and it's a thing I've carried all my life. With Ken and the team, I've always told them, when you start videoing things and pictures and stuff like that, it can easily be altered. Like what is it?
Yeah.
So what I said was, I just took the concept of, come with us, you become a true believer when it personally happens to yourself.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the way I run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think with lights, cameras and stuff like that, that sort of stands them off.
Yeah.
Because they're intrigued with what's happening. And that's why I've done like other TV programs, and I even convinced them, just turn the cameras off. Just sit for a bit. And they're like, get that back up! You know what I mean? So it's proven it's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like with this, the Red Room, that's classed as the Transfiguration Room. But that's the thing, that's a personal thing for me in there, because that's where we saw this very tall, if it's tall and slender, the more slender it is and taller it is, the longer you're going back.
And the older it is.
Age-wise.
Right.
And that's, you can say the height of the door, yeah?
Yeah, well, that's about 6.5 foot, isn't it?
So you can imagine somebody dipping down to get out of there?
Yeah.
That's how big it was. But it wasn't me. Well, I saw it, but it was a couple of the team members and about 3 or 4 of the guests. They all saw it. And they were like...
In the Red Room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they were saying, where you going, Graham? I said, well, I've got to follow it and see where it is. And I wish I hadn't. Because it actually gone into the ballroom, the yellow room.
I will go through there in a minute.
So we were in there, and it was huge strides. I mean, you'll see when you're in the ballroom, and I was thinking, that's what I was amazed at. And it just took a couple of strides, and it was out.
Yeah.
But there again, bending down to get underneath the door. So there's something there, where I'd love to get my finger on it, exactly where it is and who it is, and why it's been here so long. So that's a personal thing for me to investigate.
Well, let's go through the Red Room then.
Yeah.
So I'm here with Lynn, who's been on, you've been on quite a few of the vigils here at Featherstone Castle.
Quite a few, yes.
Yeah. How many would you say, roughly?
Since Graham started them.
Was that
So I
dozens or?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
it was at the dozens, yeah. Maybe it's 1, 2 a month.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So tell us some of the things you've experienced then. Some of the biggest ones, or?
This room,
This is the blue room.
yeah, we get a lot of activity in here when we first came in, and that was off Beatty Grey.
Yeah, the witch.
That was the witch,
Yeah.
yes. She was quite active in here. And it wasn't just bangs and knocks, she was quite verbal. You could hear it, you could hear her actually talking to you. You could have a conversation with her.
And what kind of voice did she have?
Very whispery,
Yeah.
you know, but that's all I can explain, just whispery voice.
Yeah.
But you could hear what she
Did
was saying.
did everyone in the room hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's very, very verbal.
Right.
Yeah.
What kind of things does she say?
Well, it depends what you want to ask.
So you
You
can
can-
literally have a conversation
Yes,
with her?
she's an intelligent spirit, because you have a conversation with her and she can actually answer some things
So
that you ask.
what kind of questions would you ask then? I mean, if you said to her, you know, what do you think of England football team?
I don't think she would know what football was, but
So does it have to be kind of relevant to the castle and the area? And,
yes,
yeah.
things like that, yeah.
Because it was, when was it again? I remember Graham said earlier, it's about 1,000 years ago, wasn't it, when it all happened and stuff?
Yeah, the history for this place is huge.
Yeah.
It just goes from the centuries. I think it goes back to the 12th century when it was first built.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of spirit in here. to say as well. We've had Abigail come through.
Yeah.
We found out that Abigail was, I shouldn't say this, I'll say illegitimate child.
Right, that's all right.
Right. She was the illegitimate child, but we believe she was a witch as well.
Right.
She was.
Because that was the whole Romeo and Juliet kind of story, wasn't
Yes,
it? Like
yes, that was the night of the party, the wedding party when they were all murdered.
The rival families kind of thing, yeah.
Yes, and I had said that, I said, well, you know, if the whole family had been killed, was it through jealousy? Did you have any siblings? And at the time we said no, and then this came to light that there was another child. So she's been active in here as well, along with Beatty.
Can you, when the witch or Abigail kind of appear, I mean, do they actually physically appear? Is there any presence, or is it just a voice? Or?
I can't see them. You know, I can't see them. I can hear them. I can feel the presence.
Does it feel kind of scary, or what? Or how?
It's hard to explain. If it's a nasty spirit, yes, it can. But with these two, when they come in, they might be just whispering, and then they'll interact with you. If they want to interact with you, they'll interact. They'll let you know. Oh, I want to interact with you. Might be through touching you. Might be through poking you.
So you get physically touched.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Does the temperature in the room change at all when they're
Sometimes
present?
it can. Sometimes it can.
I mean, it's quite cold in here anyway, isn't it? It's a bloody castle, I know.
It's not just the temperature.
Cost a fortune to heat.
It's not just the temperature when you're in here, it's the actual darkness of the room itself. And it sounds silly, we all say this, but we'll be sitting there and saying, this sounds silly, but it's darker than dark in here. It goes black. Right. So black you can't see it.
So when you're in here doing kind of vigils, do you have it in darkness anyway? Or do you have candles?
Yes, it's in darkness, yeah. We'll come in and sometimes we have a candle on or someone's got a torch. If we sit on the seats or on the table and then everything's switched off and we're in the darkness. And then you call out. It's not always Abigail that will come through. It might not just be Beatty. You know, we might get someone else walking through. I can't remember the name of our father. But I think he's made his presence known in here before. You can hear people walking as well. You can hear footsteps, and you can sometimes feel the floor move. Right. When I first came in and sat on this settee, I was sitting here. Well, where you are now, somebody says it's very active there. You can feel the settee being moved, or someone sat beside you. Yeah. It's really.
How does it make you feel then when this stuff happens? I mean, obviously you're going to be used to it.
I'm not. It sounds arrogant.
Do you not get goosebumps?
You can because you can feel them. The energy changes. You can feel cold, but you do get a tingle or goosebumps. You know, it's just one of those things. It's.
What about the rest of the castle? And have you experienced much elsewhere?
I love the kitchen.
The kitchen.
I love the kitchen. The kitchen now used to be the gun room.
Yeah.
And there was a spirit in there called Henry. We've just found out he's called Henry. Right. Graham didn't want to do this because it was really bugging him because he knew he was a nasty spirit.
Right.
He was always coming in and shaking the table when you had the lights out and pounding on it.
So obviously, it was as if someone physical was doing that.
Yes, and you could feel his presence. It was very heavy. And Graham says, I've got to find out what because he murdered this girl, you know.
So they weren't very nice people around me back in the day, were they, like centuries ago? I suppose that was life back then,
I
wasn't
suppose
it?
you've got one or two spirits who are, they're nice and they're helpful, but this one in particular, Graham wanted his name and we couldn't get his name. And the last time I was here, he did a vigil in there and he says, I haven't wanted to do this, but he actually brought her back to ask who had killed her, give us his name. And when he called her back, he says, he was so, really pleasant. He says, I'm sorry. He says, I brought you back. You're in a lovely place. Yes. Yeah. He says, you're in a lovely place and I don't want to have to bring you back here and ask this. And then the room just lit up. It was white. The white light. Yeah. Everybody saw this white light. And then he said, and then he asked who, what was his name? And very faintly she says, Henry.
Right.
So Graham says, I've got him. So hopefully tonight, we don't know if he's going to come back with a vengeance or if he's going to.
So you haven't kind of been back in the kitchen since?
I haven't been back, unfortunately.
I won't be around for that, but I'll have to follow up.
I love the
great, what
kitchen.
Situation.
They've done scrying and the one of the other rooms. So they're doing group scrying.
Yeah.
And they put the lights out. You have a candle, and then you've got looking at the mirrors. You're frightened to say you've seen something because you wish you were seeing something, you know. But there has been some real positive things with some
So you're looking
people.
at the mirror. To see
You're looking at the mirror. You stare
sometimes
at
you
the mirror,
see
and you morph. Your
like
face.
transfiguration.
Yeah. And it's happened to a girl in there. Graham had to go across and double take and look, and she had transfigured into the witch.
What, Beatty?
Beatty, I think it was Beatty. Yeah.
Is that?
Someone else has seen a black figure come out of the room next door and walk into the room, sort of look and go back. And the lady thought it was like a monk.
Yeah.
It was like a black hood.
Yeah.
So that's quite a few things. That's just so many you can't.
So what
remember
intrigues you
them all.
about it all then? Why do you come? You know,
I've
is there any
always
reason
been
that-
interested in spirits since I was small.
Yeah.
I used to sit staring into a mirror, and my gran used to say, "Look in there, the devil's gonna come and get you." But you know, and then you forget about it for a while. And
have you got any psychic ability that kind of like, you know, like
I don't
mediums
think
have?
so.
Or,
No, as I say, I can sometimes hear them.
Yeah.
I have seen spirit as shadow figures, but not in this castle.
Where was that?
That was at Chillingham.
Chillingham Castle.
Yeah,
Right,
fantastic
right,
place.
right.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Chilternham's kind of probably a lot, well, obviously a lot better than here, isn't it? Because this is kind of
this is new
fresh
ground.
on the market,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yeah, because no one else has done it.
Yeah,
and you know, Graham is fantastic at getting
And
them
he's
to come
Graham's
forward.
unearthed all these horrible
Yes.
people.
Well, they're all horrible. They're all horrible.
So who's nice then? Is that what positive?
I can't think of any offhand. But you know, you can get nasty spirit. I mean, really nasty spirit of being told. And
what do they do, or how are they nasty?
they throw things at you. They just try to really frighten you. You know, make you feel really uneasy. They can pass their emotions onto you.
Yeah.
We've had a few people felt a bit weepy in some of the rooms. You know.
So when you say throw things at you.
Well, can I go back? Well, this wasn't physically thrown. I wasn't here when this happened because we were always laughing about it. We're in this room apparently, and somebody had this potato truck and and that was when they were trying to get. They're talking to Beatty, so they can.
Greg mentioned that.
Yeah, and
it just kind of dropped out.
And ran across. It rolled across the floor apparently, and they picked it up. He says, "What was that? A potato." Don't know why she decided that was a potato, you know. But for a spirit to do that, you know, it takes a lot.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? You know, kind of.
But I'm looking forward to tonight. Just to see
well,
what happens tonight.
I'll get back in touch with Graham afterwards, you know, see if anything happens, because I won't be here. But alright, well, thanks very much then.
Oh, the attic. Can I just mention the attic?
Oh,
that is not a nice place.
No, well,
no.
We weren't allowed to go up there earlier, you know, like when we were on the other day.
Oh, right. So we used to go to the attic.
Because Graham said
it's weird, the energy.
Serious.
When we used to go to Chillingham and we used to go to the dungeons, I always used to get this gut feeling. I don't want to go in there.
Yeah.
It was always a foreboding feeling. Sometimes I would get in and I was fine, and others I really felt not right, and that's what I feel like in the attic sometimes. You just don't want to be there. Yeah, it's horrible.
Obviously the spirit doesn't want you coming in, so...
We just don't know what spirit's up there at the time because they follow you around. They're probably in here listening.
Well, I wish they'd show themselves on camera.
But they don't do it on camera.
No, they don't. No, they avoid the cameras.
Yeah.
Alright, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
Welcome. Thank you.
So this whole, there's a lot of screaming heard in there, isn't there?
Definitely a female. and we were all in the end dome, and we just heard this scream, but it was getting closer and closer. And then we actually opened that door, didn't we? And you just heard it, just screaming coming through here. But we were just standing there, where the hell did that come from? And we were just looking, and then there's a couple of people out there now having the screaming. And then it's to do with the two domes. That one, a blanket disappeared off the bed, and it took us 6 months to find out where that had gone. They placed it somewhere else. And then we had a girl who was on the floor in there, and she could see all lights, dark figures, stuff moving, and she says, I just don't want to see. And there was a blanket placed over the top of her. And there was nobody anywhere near her. But she said, it felt so calming, as though to say, you're protected now. And then after that, it was like a split second, and she went, whoa, but there it is, you know. It was a little bit funny, that, you know. And then it's then in this dome there, that's the one where the heavy steel beds, and we talked 3 people on there, you know, 3 adults, and they said there was something underneath, as though you're lying on your back, pushing with your feet, trying to push them off that bed, and then the whole bed just lifted and it was vibrating and jumping while these 3 sitting on it, and it was just amazing, wasn't it? And people just can't get their head around it.
It takes a lot of energy out.
Oh, a lot of energy out, yeah. So this is where we'll say to people, do you want to go in the domes, and you bring them in here. We always put them in 2 as a witness for each other, and they just freak out in here. They don't like it at all.
So how long do they normally stay in the domes?
We give them a period of 15 minutes. It's usually 3 minutes.
Did you turn the lights on when
It's up to them. If they want the lights on, it's up to them. It's all it is what we're trying to do is, you've seen the size of the place, Warren. We're trying to cover as much as we can and get as much information as we can. But a lot of them like to just sit, lights out, and then you tell them, just do a little call out session, just ask us anything.
So, the owner's been getting people staying over here for years. You know, you think stores that get around, don't go and stay there, it's haunted.
No, there's a lot of people said they wouldn't like to stop here because we had a good meeting with the locals and that, didn't we?
But there's lots of
you've always got to remember, it's not open to the public. The public's not allowed in.
No, but for people who come in, at hikers or school parties or whatever, who use the dorms, some of the kids must get scared.
I think if you have a look, I think there's a couple of videos what we've come across where they've freaked themselves out, and this is one of the dogs. And then I think there's a couple of stories where they said we felt uncomfortable in there as though somebody was watching us or walking about. So it is there. It's just that they're here for walking and they're not focused on the paranormal side. Whereas once you focus on it and that's what you're there for, it emphasises more what you do, and that's how it comes from. So it's a fascinating place.
Yeah, it is. Well, come on, let's go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, is this the highest level of the castle? We've come up some stairs and...
No, you've got a level above this.
Right.
We'll go up there shortly. But the thing about this room, this used to be called the scary bedroom, because it was a bedroom. But the owner, he's got all his maps in there and here, so the only way you can get into this room is if you're with one of the team members, with the public, because there's nobody else comes in here bar us. But this is where I think it'd be good for Ken to come in. It's like where I've always said to me team members, you will be introduced to the castle, and I think this is where Ken was introduced to Featherstone Castle, the spirit-wise.
Yeah, I think initially they were all, for some reason the spirits that were coming forward when we first came here, they didn't like me at all. And that was coming through time and time again. Yeah. Every spirit that come in, don't like him. And I think it was because my role as a historian, I'm going to probe and dig and find and learn things,
That's what he is.
And they don't like that.
Right.
So initially, very early on, they were pushing my buttons in here, weren't they?
Oh.
and it was quite an interesting experience. But we're in the oldest part of the castle here. This is part of the peel tower.
Right.
So again, we're going back to like 12th, 13th century when this was built. So if you imagine the history and the energy and the to and fro in this part of the castle. It's been here a long time.
So what was your experience then?
Well, there was a bed along there. There was a couple of beds here.
It was 2, wasn't it?
And there was a pile of mattresses there. And Paul was sat facing me there where the sound girl is, and Graham was over in this corner here. And I can't remember whether the girls were next door or not, but
They were.
Paul was like, Ken, there's something coming right up to you. I says, I know, I can feel it. I says, and as stupid as it sounds, I can say it. And he went, it's right to you. And I heard this sound to my right hand side, and I just went click, and he was like, that's where it was. And I was like, I could feel it shifting across. So we settled ourselves again, turned the torch off, and then he says, it's coming right back in. He says, I can feel it. I says, but it's gone to the other side now. And I heard the same sound to my left hand side, and I just felt this presence right in front of us. I put my torch on again, and it had backed off. But what it was trying to do was, it was really trying to get at us, and I felt surrounded, and I felt hassled, and I had to get up and I had to walk it off. I had to like just pace around a bit, and you know, when he's like, you want to be saying, back off, give us some room, some space here.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt like, and after a few minutes of like just walking around, it kind of settled us a bit, you know. But they were really trying to get at us.
Well, like on an investigative side, there was like a clash of personalities, and that's like what I said. When you come to a place like this, you're really delving into the history and the past, and there's a lot of things I like to keep hidden.
Yeah.
And Ken's the one that's bringing it out. So it was like it was a bit traumatizing really, because Ken just wasn't himself at all. He wasn't himself at all. I was trying to say to him, Ken, you need to sit down, you need to, you know, get a breather from it. And he was just like, I'm all right. And you could see the way he was turning and walking, it's as though he was surrounded.
Yeah.
And it was like I think it was a battle of wits there, like. And once Ken sort of like accepted it, it sort of just eased off. And then that's when we come with this story, you know, Warren.
The door there, yeah.
It's screwed shut. You can't get into it.
There's a reason it's screwed shut.
I think it's just separate the rooms.
Right.
Because there is a stairwell, a medieval stairwell. What's in there? I'm actually going to put you in that and see what you get down there.
Right.
But it was the knocking, the banging coming from the door the other side. And
What, so you were in this room at one point and there was banging?
oh, definitely scratching.
But you can't actually get into the other side of that door?
Not from this room.
Not from this room, from upstairs.
Right.
So we've had guests on all night investigations. There's a white face appears on this wall. Definitely female. My daughter, I mean, I'm not very nice like, but I brought my daughter up. And I said, right, because you've got to remember it was like a bedroom before, and there was like a little seat in that area, and you can see behind the wall, and there's nothing there. So I sat my wife and my daughter on there, so I just said, look, if you've got a point to make, I said, you need to make it now. And my wife got throw off the seat. And then my daughter, she says, oh, I've got to go. I says, well, what's happened? And she said there was just something like sort of tugged there and rubbed her face.
Yeah.
So she had to get up and go. And then when we've put guests in here, the guests that's coming in with exactly the same thing. They're getting touched, the face stroked. And it's just, but I think it's to do with the other side of that door you were just wearing. That's what I think it is. And that's why it's like a stairwell, but it comes down, but it stops just shy of this door. It's just sealed off for some reason.
So if you did open that door, then there'd be like a tiny little room, and then...
No, it's just a little, there'll be a little turn where you know where you get your spiral staircase. That's all it is out there. But
I thought you said if you come down the staircase, it doesn't end up at that door.
Just a little bit past it, and then it's sealed off, like the stairs are sealed off.
Right.
You'll see what I mean when I put you down there. But it's the girl, Beatty Grey, the witch of Featherstone. She tends to make an appearance in here. You can feel the floor is a bit, especially where Charlie and there is. You can hear it. You can feel it. What happens is we get guests sitting around the table, and it's what we've said before. Just have a conversation with yourselves. If they want to come in, there you go. There's something now. And it's here.
I can feel that.
And it's definitely female. Definitely female.
Females stood next to Charlie who's doing sound, yeah?
There's definitely a female coming there because the hairs on my arms is coming up. This chair here we sat a lady in there, and she wasn't disrespectful, but she just thought, she was sort of saying, I don't like believing witches type thing.
Yeah.
And she got thrown off the chair, and there was nobody sat, and she freaked out, and she ended up with her back against that wall, and I think it was yourself, Ken, was it when you were calling her down there? And she was saying, I'm not getting back in there again. But what I liked about it is, we had a woman, there was a chair, she was sitting there, and she said, I saw a shadow shoot around there, shoot across that way, and then poof, she was gone. Well, that's not the first, it's happened 3 times now. 3 times, and the last one was there was a bloke sitting in there.
What, I was in that chair?
I was in that chair. He felt it move, and then, we checking everything, and you're thinking, is anybody else touching it?
Well, let me sit in that chair then. So this is the chair that people get thrown out on?
Yeah, it is. It's scary when you sit. I mean, we feel sorry for the guests who are sitting in it. You know what I mean? But it's like, I've seen it that often. I've seen chairs move. It's like what we've said. You see a chair come out, but the ultimate thing is, while everybody's watching, if you're that clever, intelligent, can you pull the chair back in? And I've seen it pull it. But it's just something about this chair, because what happens is when you come in, there's like a sequence. What happens? It's like this female, she's still here, and she's just like watching, but you get like, it comes from there, comes through, and then you get something from this side comes in, and it's a lot of it's associated with Beatty Grey, and I'm talking the whole floor lifts and down, and this is why you've got about 10 or 15 people in here, and all of on the whole floor's heaving, and the people's like, they can't believe what's happening. But this chair, for some reason, whoever's sitting in it, when the activity's up and it's built and it's aware, it's this chair that's been pulled round while somebody's been on it, tipped over with a girl in it, and then we were talking just like we are now, and then the bloke said, I'll sit in there, all the lights out, just sit and talk, and the next thing, he's gone. And it's amazing when you see it. It's scary, but it is amazing.
Yeah. Do you think because, I think we've set this out with the cameras being on, that the kind of the spirits back away?
It's like when you get there now, I know this lady what's there, she's intrigued. Because you've got to remember, every time you come to rooms and stuff like that, something like this has never been done work in this crazy way you're at.
With us filming?
We're filming and stuff like that. So that's why. So they're just intrigued with you. And it's like I say, you can feel them coming in, then they love it. And it's, if they want to interact with you, they will. You know what I mean? It's like, I can say to them now, if any is spirit of Featherstone Castle, be it with a cameraman, sound lady, Warren, any is, they'll give you permission. If you want to do anything with them, the permission's there, they've said you can. So there you go, that's it. Yeah. It's out there now. So if they want to do something with you, they will now.
So I'm here with Francesca, who's been on a number of vigils as well.
Yeah.
And you were saying earlier that you're quite kind of sensitive to auras and things like that.
Yeah. When there's a lot of activity, I start seeing kind of blue auras, lights. As they were classed kind of orbs, so when they come in, it's like a white mist, and then it starts to get brighter, and in certain times as well, it lights up the room, depending on the activity as well.
So can other people see these, or is it
Yeah.
more than you? Or?
I think over the last few years, it's starting to become more and more prominent when I can see them. Graham can see them, and there's been times where I've said, look, I'm starting to see lights, and Graham definitely goes, yeah, that's where I've been seeing them. As I guess it depends as well on if they're tuned in. I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, Graham said that about, obviously some people are more attuned than others, aren't they?
I'm not sure how that works exactly.
I'm not attuned at all.
Some guests can see the lights, so it makes me feel kind of, I don't know, good about myself when I can see them.
Well, yeah, it's bizarre, really, isn't it? That how some people are more attuned to it. But so when you can see the white mist, is that kind of a spirit, do you think, or?
Yeah. So when
like an advanced warning, or it's an actual spirit?
I'm not exactly sure how it works. Sometimes when Graham does a call out, there's knocks, bangs to. You can ask questions, yes or no, and there's knocks, or can you do this? And sometimes the spirits answer with like banging of tables or banging of doors, shadows as well. But sometimes when you're so involved with the activity, it just starts kind of creeping in when the activity's starting to get heightened.
Right.
And sometimes the blue aura kind of comes in. There's green as well, so it means that there's kind of, I've heard that it's when a spirit starts kind of showing itself, when there's more like energy in the room.
Right, so basically you're seeing energy then.
Pretty much.
Because that's what, I mean, I know a medium, a really good medium, she always says it's all about energy, So do you think, I mean, like, is the blue kind of the initial, like, does it go white, blue, green, or what?
I'm not sure. Sometimes it comes in straight away with blue, in certain areas, white lines, mist. It depends on how the spirit's interacting as well.
And you start, was it, because I know Graham used to work in Chillingham Castle, do the ghost vigils and tours there, and you started going there?
Yeah, quite a few years ago. A lot when I was younger, I used to get headaches. I used to see white flashes in my vision.
Yeah.
Used to come away with after the castle absolutely wiped out, and started coming to Featherstone, different other locations. Started to accept that what I was seeing was kind of spirits trying to communicate, and the headaches started going away.
So, I mean, Lynn was saying about in this room, in the blue room, about Beatty and Abigail. Actually, you could hear them. You can have conversations with them and speak to them. And so, have you had conversation? Have you heard the voices of spirits?
Yeah, there's some places that are very, very clear, predominantly loud. Beardy in here, sometimes you can hear laughter. It's not a nice kind of like the whispers, the kind of gaspy or echoey. There's shouts.
An experience.
There's been some guests in here where they've asked for activity and there's a potato dropped.
Yeah,
so,
the legendary potato.
Yeah, I don't know where it's come from, but the potato's dropped just out of air.
Yeah.
So
did you see anything? When you were at Chillingham, what was your kind of biggest? What was your most serious paranormal experience there?
I'm not too sure. Again, I was just.
Was it just the mist you kind of see?
Yeah, the energy. When I came up to Featherstone, I've had like things touch.
Yeah.
I think it's now called the map room.
Yeah, we've been up there. Yeah.
Where I was getting touched up, not up the leg, but it was if somebody was grabbing my leg, trying to pull themselves up. The floor starts kind of wobbling as the energy's moving, but the floor's totally flat.
Yeah. So how does that make you feel when you?
To be fair, I know some people absolutely scream out in terror, but it shocked me at the point when, hang on, something's touching my leg.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of accepted it, got on with it, started listening. There was like things being whispered, like not auditory but very small. You had to listen very quietly.
Yeah.
And
so when it was grabbing your leg, what happened? What happened? Did it just stop, or
it happened
did you interact with them? Or?
It happened twice where they were calling out for spirits, seeing shadows across the floor, moving across the room, and it just felt like it was trying to pull itself up my leg.
Yeah.
That's obviously, I think when you're not calling out, but at the point where I said someone's touching my leg, it stopped, but there was whispers and then it started again. So I think it's at that acknowledgement that, you know, that it has done something, you've acknowledged that. I think that's what we're wanting.
Right. What about other conversations or voices, or, you know, have you heard much else?
Different places, yeah. So I don't know if you heard of the kitchen.
No, I didn't mention the kitchen.
I can't remember, it was Henry.
Yeah.
So the last time I was on that vigil, that Graham called out for the name of the spirit from the person that had been murdered.
Yeah, that Henry had killed.
So yeah, it was really weird. It was very audible. The light in the room, it was as if somebody had turned on a torch and the room lit up. There was no way of explaining how the light came in the room because there was blockouts on the window.
Yeah.
We tried to debunk it, you know, like there's a light outside or somebody's in the room upstairs, but there was nothing to prove that.
How many people were in the room at the time when that happened?
Around the table there was probably about 6 or 7 people, so it was quite a large number of people that had seen it and heard it.
So did that light tie in with, you know, the girl or the woman who'd been murdered then?
Yeah. So Graham obviously had called out for the lady to reveal the name.
Yeah.
And as soon as she revealed the name, the light started to kind of come through as if there was a relief that she'd said it and then it disappeared. And there was a total calm. I don't know how to explain the total calm, but it's just the atmosphere of the room, totally calm.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you feel scared at all when all this happened? How do you?
I've kind of grown with it. There were situations Jill and Graham or Steph, everybody in the team, used to pick a random person and say, do you fancy doing a lone vigil? I think the last time I did a lone vigil, like the first time I did a lone vigil at Cheltenham, I sat there as long as I could, absolutely bricking it.
That'd be...
I saw lights, but I had to debunk it because it was very from the ceiling to the floor, and I had to get up with my torch and have a look.
Yeah.
And it was next to a fire exit, but there was nobody there. The fire exit led out to outside.
Yeah.
And it was as if somebody had shone like a beam of light from the floor to the ceiling. Nobody had their torches on, nobody was nearby.
So there was nothing... You couldn't debunk it, basically?
No, I couldn't debunk it. I tried to be as sensible about it as well. Where creaking, I can understand creaking, you know, like debunking that, there's footsteps, but if everybody's silent, you've kind of got to say, hang on, where's that coming from?
Yeah. That's bizarre. Alright, well, thanks a lot, Francesca.
Thank you.
Cheers. So, Graham, your paranormal experiences started when you were a young child, didn't they?
Yeah. It's something what's been with us from the day I was born. I was born in a haunted house, and from born to 16 it was horrendous. It was very troublesome. It was hard to get your head round. You've got to understand you're only a child.
Yeah.
And you're wondering what's happening. And it was just different things in my bedroom, what was happening and moving. And
what kind of house was it you lived in?
it was an old colliery house. It was like a terraced house, but it was like the biggest one out of the street. I think it was the first one built.
It wasn't like remote or anything, it was just like a normal terraced house?
No, it's a normal terraced house. It's still there now.
Was there any... Did you hear about any of the neighbours having any similar things? Just your house? Yeah.
It was just based around our house. And it just... The older you got, I think it's the more you realise what was happening, and it just got more intense. The big story with the family was me mother. We could hear her screaming. My father was in it's like what they call tub loading, which is night shift. He worked at Dordon Colliery.
Yeah, it's a miner, yeah.
Yeah. I was about 5-6 year old. My two older brothers. My older brother, he was in a bedroom with me, but there were massive rooms, and there was like 2 double beds, and you had loads of space and a cupboard, and it had the old fireplaces in.
Yeah.
And we just heard me mother screaming, so we all jumped up, and like I say, I'm toddling behind, 5-6 year old. And just when they opened this door, and you just saw this quilt, and you can picture it now, and she's screaming, got hold of it here. And we were at the door like down here, looking in. But the quilt was pulled this way, and it was so taut, but there was nothing there.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get my head around. I was thinking, well, you know, what's going on? So my two brothers, thinking of the safety of me mum, then dove onto the quilt and onto me mum. And then I'm just standing at the door, like, jaw dropped, like, what's going on? and then the quilt just dropped, and it was just so bizarre.
Yeah.
Especially the age I was, and then, like I say, the older you got, the more things start happening. And me dad, for some reason, he decides to get us a ventriloquist dummy. Worst thing in the world, Warren. Yeah. Oh yeah. He used to sit on a chair beside my bed, but I could physically see it was a girl and a boy, and I knew it was definitely a girl and a boy. They were very playful, and they used to run across the floor. You could hear them run across the floor, but I was like trying to hide from it or turn my back on it, but I realised that wasn't working. So it's like, to this day, if anything's happening, I always face it. I never turn my back on anything. And then you could hear them giggling, laughing.
So could you actually see them?
Oh, you could see them.
And what were the dress? What kind of?
I'd say Victorian.
Yeah.
Definitely Victorian. And then the thing what really frightened us, and of course, that's when you get older, then they said, oh, we realised that, but we were too young to tell you what was happening.
Yeah.
So the sort of...
Your brothers?
Yeah. We knew it was happening, but we couldn't tell you. They were trying to talk you down all the time.
Yeah, trying to protect you guys.
And then it was the ventriloquist, and it just turned, and the mouth's going like this, and I'm just like, what the hell, you know what I mean? And it was the girl's voice come through it, and that just freaked us out. And I'm up screaming. John, my older brother, he was like, what's the matter? And I was saying, the dummy's taught us, and he was saying, behave, man, just get into bed, you'll be alright, and stuff like that. But you could hear them giggling, and it was horrendous. It really was.
What kind of things did the girl make?
It was, to be honest with you, when you think about it, it was like trying to say, like, hello.
Yeah.
And it was just this. You're safe. You know what I mean? They were trying to tell you they're not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
I did get a little bit of comfort with that, but it was the fact of them being there, because I'm the youngest who had to get into bed first.
Yeah.
And I used to be petrified. Got into bed and I used to cry a lot, and my dad's one of these, don't be silly. It doesn't work, but it was my dad's mother, my grandmother. She knew, because she was into reading tea leaves and stuff like that, and she used to tell us, and the biggest thing I learned of my grandmother was, if you accept things, it will sail you through it. So I sort of accepted it, and it's sort of like calmed down a bit, and you just expected it. And then it was like, there was one time, what really frightened us was this dark shadow in the corner.
Your bedroom?
And that frightened us, because I'm getting used to the little bits, the little boy and girl, but it was this huge black shadow, and I screamed. I remember screaming. My dad ran up and he was, what's the matter? I said, there's a black thing in the corner. What's what I said? And he was like, you've been dreaming? I said, no, I wasn't dreaming. And then, he sort of calmed us down a bit. He went, my brother came in, I went, John, gonna eat. He says, don't worry, I'll look after you, you'll be alright. Lying there, then I saw it again. It was this huge black shadow.
Yeah.
And then my brother turned, he was like looking, and he sort of, oh, you'll be alright, this, that and the other. And then it was later on, when I was about 12, 13, that's when he come out. He says, can you remember that big black shadow? So he'd seen it as well, you know what I mean? And then the other worst thing was my brother, who had the bedroom across the corridor from us. It was this banging and banging, and this was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I used to always have my hands over my ears, or I was trying to hide all the time, because it was noises, banging, scuffling, things moving in the bedroom, and then with just this huge banging. And I went with my brother, John, and we opened our door, and it was, honestly, it was like a door breathing. It was like as though it was born out.
Yeah.
And it was just horrible. The thing what gets you was the horrible feeling. Me, in my head, I was thinking, this is the same thing what was getting me mad. You know what I mean? That's the feeling what I got. And then my brother, Paul, he was trying, because it had the old knobs on when you turn to get out, and he was trying to turn that, and he was shouting, he says, the door's stuck. He says, but there's something at the door. And I was starting to get panicking, and then it just sort of, as quick as it happens, it's as quick as it went. And then the door just sort of like come in, it was cracking and banging. Yeah. And then he just opened the door and he went, oh, he says, that was horrible that in there. So, as all the brothers, we all knew there was something happening, and we knew there was something going on there. But what it is, why they were there, that's a thing which I think I didn't want to know. And when we moved, when I can remember, 16-year-old, we're moving further into modern houses and stuff like that. That was when my life started then. You know what I mean? And that's what it was.
So what, has this room got a name?
The attic.
This was quite, the what?
We class it as the attic.
The attic?
Yeah.
And there's quite a few rooms off. There's the staircase there.
Yeah. The stairwell, yeah.
Stairwell, yeah. And that goes up to the roof as well.
Yes.
And then you've got the little room. Well, it's hardly a room, is it? In that corner.
I think that's more like a lookout point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other room in there that's got costumes in it.
We sort of call that Abigail's Tower. We give it that name. And it's just ever since we only got access to that about a year ago.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Wasn't long, and since that's been opened, there's just that much stuff what's happening now. So we sort of think, have you released something?
Yeah.
You know, with the door being open now. But it's the thing what gets people is the light anomalies, what's happening. And honestly, it's like car lights, they're massive, but you see them coming across the wall, you see them going down the stairs. Yeah. And these are huge lights. And people saying, oh, it's got to be a car. And I'm thinking, from where? Yeah. Where are you going to get car lights from? That's how bright it is and how strong they are. And it's fascinating when you see it. And the room at the back, that's the one where we got, it was just, all you could see, it was just black mass. And you could see it creeping out across the floor. And that's, to me, I think that's like a bunch of bad energy what's hanging about. Yeah. And that's what when you're seeing something like that, that's when you've got to be careful, because if that gets into somebody, then you've got problems, you know what I mean?
Well, like it can attach itself to you.
Yeah. So there's times where I've said cut, and we're away. Yeah. And we've gone.
Because you don't like it, do you?
No, it stems from a time when I think we were doing a team-only investigation, and we were drawn to the spirit in the lookout. And it was reaching out and it was scratching the wall, it was grabbing people, and we were huddled around that door and we were like calling out to the spirit. But every fibre in my body, there was just a line, and that was it. My body was just saying, right, Ken, you've had enough in here now, finished. And I was like, I'm away. And the team were like, no, we're here to investigate. I was like, I'm finished, I'm done. I'm just, you know, it was just, my whole body was just saying, out.
Yeah, because you were in there, weren't you, Graham, and the door slammed and you couldn't get out?
It's like a door where it's got to shut from the inside, and you can see it's not that big because you've got a look in there. So what I do is we've got a mirror in there, and sometimes we do mirror scrying in there, and it's basically try and catch the image of whatever's in there, or in this section of the castle. That's the reason why that's in there. And I went in and I was putting the mirror in, and it's not much, and then the door just slammed. And me, at first I thought, very funny, I thought it was like the team. Yeah. And then I realised I was up here by myself and there's nobody there, there's nobody out here, but it's like a snake off a gate. Yeah. And it just wouldn't open. It just went as though the force was keeping it shut from the inside, pushing it shut. And I'd start thinking, and all I said was, keep calm. I says, please, I says, we're not gaining anything by this. I says, can you just let us out? And the door just went, and that was it. Yeah. And I was telling you about that, and it was awful. And then we had a girl in there, and she actually saw a figure in the mirror, And I've always learned people, I says, when you're in a situation like that, never run. Never run. I says, it's a danger to yourself as well. I says, just, if you're not happy with it, just stand up and just walk away from it. I says, never run. Gosh, you come out there like a greyhound. Once you... And like as I say, when we're on about the intelligent haunting, that's the table. What was lifted and through as Jill was passing through here, which the spirit said in the kitchen, that's what he was going to do. And that was, it was so fantastic for that to happen.
Because you were doing a Ouija board downstairs, weren't you?
In the kitchen, yeah.
And you're saying, basically, you know, prove that...
A spirit come out of the board and he says, oh, I know where Jill is. And it was Simon who was running that. And Simon says, well, where is she? She's in the attic now. And that's what it spelled out on the board, in attic. And he went, well, prove it, if she's in the attic. And he did say, scare her now. Did you hear that down on the stairs there?
Did I what?
Did you hear something on the stairs there?
No.
I did.
I thought I did.
Yeah. And then what happened is Jill, because you've been down the stairwell, Warren?
Yeah.
Jill come in with a guest, put him down the stairwell, and then in the kitchen downstairs, it said, she's alone now. And Simon said, well, do it now then, and prove it. And Jill just got past this chair and this whole table just banged and rocked and buff, and she was off like a shot. And she comes screaming. She comes screaming down them stairs, wasn't she? But Simon could hear her screams, and Simon was sort of met, and I said, he goes, has something just frightened you? Yeah, get in. And we said, oh, what's happening? He says, it just told us that's what it was going to do. So it was a huge night. Yeah. And it's what it's telling you is intelligent haunting. They're listening to what you're saying, and they will act on what you ask them. And it just blew me away. I just thought it was amazing.
It'd be hard to beat that.
Yeah.
That's a high, that's a real high.
That's a very high, yeah.
So we were in the red room before with all the tables in, and that's where you do transfiguration with the mirrors.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
Well, it was just like it started off with Ken, and it was when we were doing like team only. I think it was the second time we'd been here, and you just see Ken. He was just transforming into something completely different. His whole body mass, everything, he was just as though he was growing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of us called Simon, who was off the team. Simon's very sensitive to spirit. And I think Simon spotted it first, and he goes, what's happening with Ken? So we all focused on Ken. And he was definitely changing into whatever. So we were casting that as, that's transfiguration, where it's actually coming through Ken's body to show who it is.
Yeah.
So we decided to mirror scrying there, where you get a mirror and a candle. Instead of 1 and 2s, we decided to do like 12 all at once. And then after they'd been in the mirror for about 10 minutes, we'd put the mirrors down, pull the candles close to the people, and then the guests actually look at each other. And it was just phenomenal, the amount of faces, what was changing. And a lot of people were sort of freaked out by it, because when something like that happens, they think they take it home with them.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, no, I said, I'll guarantee you'll not take anything home with you. But it's like, they were all coming out with the same face, long sideburns down there, and then like sunken in eyes, like a brow would come out.
Yeah.
But there was, I think out of all the investigation, what we've done at Featherstone, there must be about 15 to 20 people to come out with the same thing. So there's something there, Warren. And it's a spirit what's there, and that's his features what's shown.
Yeah.
And it's also in that red room, this is where I'm on about this elongated spirit.
Yeah.
That's where it's been seen, in the red room, leaving into the ballroom and then out. But
the ballroom's a yellow room, isn't it?
Yes. So if you class that as the yellow room. So as an investigator, you have to put people in certain places where you know certain things happen. And in the Red Room, we're putting people in there. I like it, at least 6 to 12 people. And then I think you get an overall better value of what's happening.
Yeah.
So it is working. And then what I do is I put 2 in the Yellow Room. And then they're just freaking out in there. There's something in there where it's surrounding them again, floors heaving up and down. And we had 2 girls that were just clinging onto each other, going in circles, just screaming. And it took us ages to calm them down. And then they were sort of saying like, no, I want to go home now, I've had enough. And then just one little one of where we're on about voices. And it's like Jamie was saying, I thought that was you, Graham, when we were first filming in here. And no, because the voices travel. They can put that voice wherever they want. And the proof what we got of that was a girl who was sitting in this blue room, and she was actually not far from where you are, Warren.
Yeah.
Because we had a big long table, and then what we used to do was put a big long table in. Because I like people to sit facing each other and they can watch each other. And she was sitting on the edge here, and she was just wincing, and she was pulling herself in. I was saying, are you alright? I says that it was like a female. You could see it was a female what had come in, but she was actually talking right into her ear. And then she was saying, you be careful. And she was like jumping out. I said, I heard that. I said, did it say you be careful? She went, yeah. And then this bloke spirit come in, and he just says, you're just like the one what I used to take before. And that's what it said to her. And that just totally freaked her out. But it wasn't just her heard it. There's about 4 or 5 people heard that. And I think we actually picked a lot of that stuff up on AVP.
Yeah.
And it's that's what it is. It's just like it freaks them out, because a lot of people come like just to have a look and see what it's like. But when you do it properly and the results is there, it literally just blows people away.
So you hear about attachments, with like demons what people know is getting possessed.
Yeah.
Or attachments. Why don't you think that'll ever happen?
Possession is very rare. It's very rare, and I've had talks about it. Sometimes people ask us to come and I'll have a chat with them about different things, and I'll say possession's very rare. Says attachment. I says what attachment is, and what I've come across personally with guests what I've had over the last 15, 20 years. If the spirit comes in and they say like, oh, I like Warren, I feel safe around Warren, it's you who get all the activity all the way through the night, because it's attached with you, it's following you, and it feels safe with you.
But would it follow you home?
No.
Because I've heard of people.
I've
talked to people who.
I think we're in the investigative side. What we do, you have to be skeptical on some things. And like for me, from a kid, right the way up to now, what you see is what you get. And then it's like what I've said before, I'm very interested in people as well. Their train of mind, their thought, you give us a description of what you think the night was like, what happened, can you explain what happened there? And then I started getting silly phone calls, and it was like, oh Graham, can you come to my house? Oh, why? There's a spirit at the top of the stairs that's got red eyes, and it's thrown my sister down the stairs, and it's brought her leg, and I'm like, no, I'm not coming there, you know what I mean? And it's like a lot of it's like their imagination, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've said to people, I says, just keep yourself grounded, because we do like have a laugh, a joke, carry on, and that keeps them grounded. And honestly, Warren, after 20 years we've done it, there's not one person gone home with anything attached to them or not like that. Because I always open up saying, thank you for allowing us coming into your house. Get your boundaries set.
Yeah.
It's your house, we're a guest in your house, you know what I mean? And that's the type of route what we go down. And then it's like, they're not interested in coming home with you. They're not interested at all.
Can you sense anything in the room at the moment?
A woman again, at this top corner, but what she's, I mean, that's why I've been like, turning around, because what she's doing, she's nodding. I think it's an agreement.
Yeah.
And then it's like, the other one's like one of my team members, Steph. She was sitting on that sofa at the back there, and it was something where once somebody tells us something or explains what's happened, I sort of try my hardest to reenact it, to try to get it to happen again. Because something, for me to be, yes, that happens at Featherstone Castle, it has to happen about 6-7 times, you know what I mean? Not just one story. And she said it was like a Catherine wheel, spinning and spinning, but coming towards her, to her face. And I mean, she's a lovely girl, Steph, like, she's been on the team for a while now, and it just freaked her out. She had to go. And she says, that's one thing I'll never forget. And I says, what do you mean, a Catherine wheel? I said, she says, like a spinning light, very fast, just come towards her face. And I was thinking, well, what the hell does that mean? That's the investigative side of me thinking, why, what does that mean? Because a lot of people think, because something's happening, stuff like that, it's a message. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, it's just something what's happened. It doesn't mean, you know, something's going to happen to you, this, that, and they always look on the bad side or the dark side. And I said, nah, I says, a lot of it, if you keep it simple, it will be simple. And it's like the time where Jill got pushed off the table. It wasn't it's an evil poltergeist, it's an evil spirit. It wasn't just like, get off the table, do you do that at all? And it's just something as simple as that.
Yeah.
And this is what I try to get across to people, you know. And it's, but with the red room, when we're scrying, it's a winner there, like, because when you see two people looking at each other, and sometimes it's man and wife, or it's mother-daughter, or it's father-daughter, and they just freak out, and they say, it just horrifies them, and then you're there just to calm them down, and just say, look, all it is a spirit showing itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I says, and that's it. I says, what did you ask for? And I've always said to people, every time they do something like this, be careful what you ask for, because you might just get it. And then it's like, and I said, it's like you could be sitting in here, and it's like yourself worried, you could say, any spirit in Featherstone Castle, if you're there, come and pull me hair. It's not going to happen at that instant, but half an hour now down, someone's pointing, you think, oh, someone's pulling me hair. What did you ask for? You know what I mean? And it's as simple as that.
All right, well, thanks very much, Graham.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute
Thank you to
pleasure.
everyone, all the spirits.
Yes, thank you.
In Featherstone Castle. Not that I've seen any myself, but I think Charlie sensed some unsound. And cheers, Ken. Stood over there. All right, guys. Hope you've enjoyed that. Cheers.
Thank you.